I have the privilege of interviewing Monique Parry, who did the Woman Beat Your Drum program a while back. And oh boy, we are going into some beautiful territory today in this interview. And the key theme here is in strengthening your relationship with yourself. You can't help but impact and transform the relationships with the people around you, and particularly the very special ones. So I'm looking forward to Monique sharing with you more about her life and how things transform through the program. And if you are listening in, welcome. And just thank you for your interest in transformation and your commitment to what's important to you. So while Monique and I are talking, because we're going to have just a real good chat here, please write in the comments where you're from and any questions you've got about anything as we're going through this. So, and afterwards, Monique and I will go through and answer everything. So, Monique, thank you so much for your time and your willingness to share. Because, you know, oh, can you hear that? Can you hear those bangs? Okay. Well, here in Mexico, where I live, Mexicans love to celebrate anything. And today is Construction Workers' Day. And so they love loud bangs. And so they just get fireworks, because it's not fireworks, it's just like bangs, loud bangs going off all day long. So you hear them? That's what they are. So thank you. Do you want to say a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Hi, Leanne and everyone. Thank you for having a chat with me. My name is Monique. I'm 35 years old, but I think we started working together maybe 34, even 33. And I'm currently based in New Zealand and working as a yoga instructor, which is partially due, thank you, to your work.
I remember in the very beginning when we started working together, and that was one of your dreams. It was something at that time that, I mean, you had even said something like, if ever I actually get there to be a yoga instructor, that would just be so incredibly amazing, but I just can't see how it could happen. And so there are some amazing miracles that have happened in your life, things that have come true in such a short period of time. And I want people to know that they can happen. And we're going to delve into how they actually did happen. So first of all, just in regards to like the Woman Beat Your Drum program, this isn't the first time you've gotten into, personal development kinds of things. And so what is it that made you say yes to the Woman Beat Your Drum program? Is it about?
Initially, when we spoke, there were given heaps of options. So we could chat one-on-one, or I was able to potentially join a group of other women in the same sort of interest looking to develop. You also came highly recommended through people that I know that have worked with you as well. And not only that, it had a spiritual aspect for me that I felt, which I loved. It included a bit of meditation or breath work, which I'm highly aligned with through yoga. And I also felt quite connected to you. I felt guided. I felt like you were going to do that in a way that you understood what I needed, but you were also going to hold me really accountable. So the weaker sides of me that needed that accountability, you could see, and you made me commit to that. So yeah, a mix of all of those things.
I think even in just your sharing there, Monique, people can really get the sense of how wise you are and how conscious to lay that out. It's like, I've got these weak parts, and I know that parts that keep pulling the rug out from under my feet or judging me and just not letting me fulfill what it is I want to fulfill. So yeah, great wisdom right there. And when you go to step into something transformational, because the program's transformational, that's why we're having this conversation too, because it's also difficult to describe the Woman Beat Your Drum program, because it's not got a syllabus where we cover, okay, today's topic is, It's not content driven. It's actually driven and guided by what you want. And then the processes are designed so that it enables your own wisdom and your own strength to develop. So before you step into something transformational, you can deal with or feel obstacles, like, because fear can come up, because things are really going to change. Because sometimes we hang on to stuff. We say we want to let it go, but we hang on to it because it keeps us safe, it keeps us small, and we don't have to then really take responsibility for who we are. And so there's like that part of you that's, oh. Yeah, what was or were there obstacles that you had to overcome before you actually were fully 100% committed in the program?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I think it's commitment itself. I had a really hard time showing up for myself for a long time and being dedicated to myself. And I knew when I was going to sign up that was, I was going to have to turn up every week and show up, and I wouldn't be able to have an excuse if I wasn't there. And I think at the start, you said that to me. You said, this is serious and we're not fluffing around, and you need to commit every day to this work and show up to our meetings. And so that accountability, again, not just coming from you, but on myself to show up. So that was really challenging. And I knew that the minute that I said yes was the moment that I would step forward and go on this path. And that was scary. And I had an insight to it a little bit before with my yoga teacher training. Obviously, you say it's very quite relatable, because that work is done in the process. So you can't say, hey, we're going to do exercise A, B, and C. You become a yoga teacher by going through that process of training. And my retreat was very similar. They couldn't tell us what would happen on it. You just had to show up, and the work that you come out with is you turn out like a better person for it. So yeah, very similar experience, but in its own amazing way.
When you said, I wasn't used to showing up for myself. Feel it. It's like, whoa. Even my heart right now, there's so many of us who just don't show up for ourselves and don't even realize that we're not, So
yeah, I think I knew that I wasn't as well, and I'd had enough, and I knew that I needed to change. And so I knew that I wanted that commitment and that accountability, and that's exactly what I needed.
Yeah. Wow. So there you are, you began the program, and then what did you want from the program? And then what did you actually get from participating? Because they're not always the same things. And maybe they are.
I think I got what I came for, but in a much more deeper and profound way than I expected. I came with wanting a more sense of direction, which obviously you can't say, oh, Monique, go and become a yoga teacher, because it's clearly what you want. So you kind of drew those answers from me. They were already there. And that's that relationship with myself that built. So I wanted more direction, and I got a stronger relationship with myself to know that I already had the answers within me and I just needed to figure out the tools on how to utilize finding those answers. And I wanted more confidence, which came. It came through a series of tools and exercises with you that I now use on a daily basis. And
just on that, so hold your thought on that confidence thing. So it's been a little while since we have worked together, and I want to ask is that confidence level, how has that maintained itself since the program?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, because that's something, you know, you can do something, and it's like your confidence gets expanded, and then
something happens and it goes back. Yeah, no, it's definitely still there. I've had experiences with people with conflict where usually I'm a very sensitive person where I would just cry and become a victim. Whereas now I'm very grounded. I still get rattled a little bit, but I know how to calm myself down. I know how to get recentered. I know the tools that I need to do to come back to that place of confidence and grounding, which is really powerful.
That is so amazing. So, you know, like beforehand, just on that confidence, and, you know, we can, you know, continue on with, as I know I interrupted you there. What was it like before? You've touched on it, but what were you like before in the area of confidence, so people can compare?
I just don't feel like there was any. If there was, it was very surface level. It wasn't really deep down. I know that I'm confident. You know, it was fake it till you make it. And I felt like I'd never made it, and the faking it wasn't working.
Can you give an example? I'm thinking of times maybe when somebody wanted you to do something.
Yeah.
You used to do nannying, and you were like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And people kept asking you because you're so good, and, you know, people would want you with their kids, and, you know, yeah. So maybe you had a hard time saying no.
Yeah. I get asked a lot to nanny. I've got over 10 years of experience. And I guess that confidence in me previously would feel really guilty, would say yes, would take under the wage that I feel I'm worth, and then would feel really resentful and kind of angry and disappointed that I had said yes to something that I didn't want to say yes to. Whereas now people still ask me, and I know that it's not what I want to do anymore. And if I need the work and I want the work, I give my rate and I say, this is my rate. You know, I'm willing to discuss it with you further. If you just need something casual or temporary, I'm not available full time. Sorry, I'll keep my ear out for anyone else that's maybe available. And I don't think anything further of it. You know, I don't hang on to it. I don't feel guilty. I don't carry it with me. I just say no, sorry, and move on.
That is huge, because in the past you would ruminate on it. You would, you know, say yes and then feel bad and guilty. And I shouldn't have, or you said no and you didn't want to hurt their feelings. I mean, this is just phenomenal, the shift. Yeah,
and it comes from that place of that really stronger center that I've worked with, that true confidence.
Yeah. Wow. So thank you. And we're going to come back to, you know, when I did you, and I just want to speak for a moment to the people listening in. So if you're just listening in now, please just write in where you're from, any questions or comments for Monique and I, then we're going to get in there afterwards and respond to everything. So this is exciting. We're delving into the depths of relationship, and actually how you truly create the relationships that you really do want. And this does happen. So coming back to Monique, and I had asked you before, what were the things that you wanted from the program and what did you get? And you were at confidence, and then I jumped in. What else did you want to say there?
So yeah, direction and confidence. And then the other thing was just stronger relationships. I didn't know how to deal with conflict. I didn't know why I was struggling with some friendships, some other relationships, family dynamic, and just I felt like I wanted to strengthen them and didn't know why I had these reoccurring almost hiccups in certain areas, perhaps with boundaries or communication. So I knew that there were issues there, and I felt like I'd done a lot of work, but nothing was changing.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so can you give us some examples of maybe the struggles that you used to have and then how things shifted?
Probably somewhat similar to the nannying, but this is like a really close relationship. So it's not like I could just say no and then ignore them and never speak to them again or move on. And this is someone that's in my life consistently from a young age. And throughout my yoga teacher training, I had learned certain things around boundaries and things like that. And then perhaps say this person would ring me and I wasn't available at the time, and I had a really busy day on, I didn't really feel like talking. I would say, hey, I'm not available right now. Can we chat later? And they would do what I used to do and take it extremely personally and become almost mad at me. And for a long time in my life, I felt I was giving everything that this person wanted, but it was never enough. Or, if I ever said no, I was made to feel really bad. That's sort of similar experience, but in a much more long-term relationship environment.
So what did you start to distinguish then that was going on inside of you that was making it difficult here to be in that relationship? Like what did you see to break through? What insights did you have?
Right now, the words people pleaser are just coming to my mind. They're just jumping at me, which is a tool that I've been taught now, I think, partially from this relationship, but also from reading a little bit, to pay attention to that. If something flashes at my mind with a word, it's telling you something. It's your subconscious saying, hey, listen to me. So people pleaser for me comes up, and that was me. That was what I was doing. I was trying to say yes to everyone, which just isn't possible, really. And through the work that we did, we came up with several tools to use and exercises that we went through. And to me personally, it's just unexplainable the amount of shift that came in multiple relationships by doing the work on myself. So I did some of the work, and then I just noticed the people around me changing, and just, specific things that would align and happen I just don't have an explanation for them other than the work that I was doing.
Can you give an example with that?
Yeah. I think we went through an exercise, and then I was told to write perhaps an outcome, and then that outcome ended up happening with that person straight away within a week. Perhaps it was like a picture that I decided to choose, and then that started coming into my life everywhere. And specifically from that person, in conversation or email or social media, just started showing up everywhere. And when I did the work and certain techniques, they started doing them too. And this is someone that's not interested in self-development or transformation or meditation or anything. They used to look at me like it was a bunch of fluff and silly and not take much interest in my interest.
So you'll have some people who are just sitting on the edge of their seat because we all have people in our lives who we love and we really care about, and yet they're not interested in personal development. And because, the people who are listening in, I know you're all interested in personal development. That's why you're here with Monique and I. And so how do you think that happened? Like, how is it that, what shifts in you? How did that shift something in someone else? What do you think?
I just think it comes back to, as we started this conversation, that relationship with myself was so strong and it was developing, that they felt that, and they felt, okay, she's not going to just take this anymore, and then maybe perhaps explore that within themselves. I mean, all of this work that I was doing, I recall, my brother, he rang me out of nowhere, and he wasn't a part of my wanting to work with or anything. Our relationship is great. And he rang me out of absolutely nowhere and just apologized for, if he wasn't a great brother, or if he was mean to me growing up, and why he felt that way. And I was just gobsmacked because, it was nice to hear from him. Of course, we grew up brother and sister, he'd beat me up or be mean, or without any awareness or intention behind that as a teenager. Perhaps some of that stuck with me. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, for him to ring that when I'm doing that work was like, maybe this is spreading to people that I'm not even talking regularly with. He's in Australia, so we talk now and then, but not maybe as often as we should. He's busy with a baby. But yeah, so, things like that were just unexplainable, happening on a weekly basis at that point.
Wow. Mm. Let me delve into this a little bit more and just kind of break it apart too. So what happens when we transform who we are? And I want to explain that too, because sometimes people think, oh, I don't want to change who I am, and it's not about that. It's actually about you becoming more who you really are. Because we spend so much time not being ourselves. And how that even happens is actually all of these limiting thoughts that we carry in our minds. They're the kinds of thoughts that, oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, be careful. Oh, don't speak out. Oh, you'll hurt them. Oh, what if they don't like you? There's all those thoughts. And people's thoughts are sometimes similar and sometimes different. We've collected them since we were little. That's how the brain grows. And we're just looking at life from the perspective of a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, as we're trying to discern what's going on. That's how the brain grows. Because when we're born, there are parts of the brain that haven't even grown yet and developed. And so they start developing. That's more your prefrontal cortex and the understanding of the world, and the logical. Babies are not logical. They don't have that part of their brain. And so as that part of the brain evolves, that's the little you trying to figure out the world. But you're looking at it for 3 years old, and you're making decisions. Oh, gosh, I better be careful here. Oh, can't do that. Oh, people don't like me if I do that. And then we just collect all those thoughts. And then we try and be ourselves in life. But, you're constantly being bombarded by these thoughts telling you who you should be, who you can't be, who you're supposed to be, who you have to be. And it's when you actually begin realizing that you are not your thoughts, and that you begin to untangle those thoughts in your mind and you begin to disappear them, that you then have an opening inside to be more authentic, to be who you are, to listen to your inner wisdom.
You're making me want to do the course again.
Do you remember, way back when you used to share with me some of the thoughts you had about yourself, and they were just so judgmental about how you can't do this and you can't do that. Remember that?
Yeah, it makes me sad.
And they're just not there anymore.
And if they do come up, they get stopped in their tracks.
Yeah. Because all that's happening is, as like in transformation, you learn that you're not your thoughts and that you need to retrain your brain to think. You need to retrain it and think in ways that resonate more fully with who you are. So that's what the process is. And even in the beginning, we had a hard time sometimes booking the time of the session because you didn't like getting up early. and yet here you are. Why don't you tell people your morning routine?
So now I'm up between roughly 5 or 6 a.m. and I meditate, and I'm still having morning swims, and we're currently in May in New Zealand, which is pretty much the start of winter. So I live a few minutes from the beach, and yeah, I didn't want to be a morning person, and I didn't like the cold, and just learnt to change the things that I wanted to change the habits I didn't like.
Yeah, that's just so inspiring. Totally inspiring. Yeah. And so in developing or in strengthening your relationship with yourself, can you just tell people a little bit more about that? Because, before people even do this work, I know myself, years and years ago, I didn't even know what it was to be in relationship with yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I can cook myself a nice meal, I'll go out for a walk. What is that? So how would you describe that, being in relationship with yourself, and what are the things that you do to maintain that?
I would say that the relationship with myself now looks like doing the things that I know are good for me. So before, I would stay up really late, think I'm just a night person, a night owl, and then be really tired the next day. Whereas that I would wake up then the next day kind of moody, slept in, it's late, whereas now I'm up early and I feel good for it and I'm making the most of my day. I'm starting it off with the things that aren't necessarily always easy. It's not easy to get in the ocean that's freezing cold in the almost middle of winter. It's not easy to commit to waking up and meditating in the morning when you've just woken up. But I know that in the long run that I'm building that relationship with myself and that I'm showing up for myself and I'm doing the things that I know are good for me, even if perhaps in the moment I don't want to do them. And by doing that work, it just, you're telling yourself you're going to do something and you're sticking to it, and that you've kind of got your own back, you can trust your own word when you follow through with it.
Yes. And that strengthens your confidence. That's where your confidence becomes unshakable, because you trust yourself. And it's quite a journey to get to there. And actually, what I was going to say earlier too was, how is it that other people transform just from you transforming? Well, when you start changing the kinds of thoughts that you entertain in your brain, when you start changing those, every thought you have has an electrical current, and the electrical current flows beyond your body. Like, it doesn't, just stay stuck in the skull of your head. And so you've got this electrical current that's flowing out, and energy flows through everything. We can now see it, take pictures of it. It's no longer woo-woo. And imagine, though, the thoughts that you used to have, those ones that made you sad, those thoughts that held you back and all that. Well, they also had a frequency which would attract certain circumstances and attract certain people. When you change the thoughts that you have, it changes the frequency of energy. It also changes how you interact and relate with people. And so over time, other people begin to react differently to you. You begin to attract different people, and you attract circumstances that you just couldn't have before. But it simply is, and it starts with your relationship with yourself, because you really have to deal with the thoughts that you tell yourself in order to take that journey of trusting yourself and loving yourself and taking care of yourself. And you start doing that, and you feel that strength inside, then you start being different. Circumstances change, people change. Cool, eh?
Very cool.
Yeah. So is there anything else you would like to share from the program that I haven't asked you yet, or that's come to mind to share?
Nothing particular from the program itself, but just the fact that I believe that it's just so insanely rewarding, that self-study and that knowledge that you gain, and that will stay with me for life. Yeah, I mean, that process for me was so powerful that I did it twice. So yeah, nothing else, just an enormous gratitude and thank you.
You're welcome. You are welcome. And thank you for your courage, because it takes courage to be vulnerable and to be also willing to look in the hard places, because, it takes being honest about yourself. It takes being honest to yourself. And, sometimes there's things that we've been avoiding, but like you said, it is incredibly rewarding, because in the long run, you really don't want to be avoiding stuff anyway. Feel good. It feels much better to be honest with yourself.
My girlfriend, we now have a term called "eat the frog," and it's get the crappiest thing out of the way first. And I now have the confidence to do that. I have the ability to say, this is making me feel uncomfortable. I don't want to deal with it, so I have to deal with it.
Yeah. And what did you call it? Eat the frog?
Eat the frog.
Oh, I really like that. I really like that. Could you share that story you shared with me earlier about that guy that you broke up with?
Yeah, sure. Tricky. Took my time to get to know him. We were in a lockdown at the time, and so spent the time chatting, looking for any flags, and didn't actually come across the flags until we spent time together. And I approached the problem and said, hey, look, this isn't making any sense. Something's wrong. Do you want to talk about it? And I just got pushed aside, like, oh, it's nothing, just leave it. And because I've developed that strength within me, I knew that my intuition was saying, no, I'm not going to be quiet about this. You I'm not going to be quiet, something's wrong. And of course, I really wanted it to work out. I'd invested all that time. I was interested. There was attraction. So, and it kept nagging. And then, so I basically said again, look, I need some answers. I need some response. I need some communication. And if you're not willing to meet me here and discuss this, then I can't move forward. And I just broke it off there and then.
Wow. Like,
yeah.
In the past, you would have had problems even.
I would have stayed in it for years and just ignored it and been resentful and unhappy. And yeah.
So it took so much to just stand in your power and listen to your intuition, because also too, you really liked this guy. You were attracted to him. You wanted it to work out. So that takes an awful lot of courage to let go.
Yeah.
Yeah, those red flags and your intuition, and trust yourself. And then what happened?
And then basically straight away, I met someone else without any intention, because obviously I don't like to rush that quickly. But just, I met someone else doing something I love, and he loves the ocean, and very aligned after the same thing, and plenty of open communication when there's a problem. And when one of us isn't happy, we sit down and talk about it. Just a completely different relationship, exactly what I wanted. And it almost feels like the other person was in the way of me receiving that, and it had to take me to do that to get what I wanted.
Yeah. When we begin respecting ourselves and loving ourselves, we attract someone who respects us. That's that I explained, like the energy. And but you got to practice. Wow. Yeah. What would you say, just as we wrap things up here, to any woman who is thinking about doing the Woman Beat Your Drum program and they're kind of on the edge? What would you say to them?
I just want to scream, do it. You're going to walk away with experiences that you almost can't explain, but it's from the work that you're doing. You will change, but for the better. You get rid of the tools that bother you, the habits that bother you, or understand why they're there and how to manage them. You will build a relationship with yourself, which is so important, because without that connection to yourself, you can't have it with other people. And I know it sounds cliche, but now that I'm experiencing that, it's, whatever happens around me doesn't rattle me like it used to. I can come back to myself and know that I'm still here, and that, I've got this, and I know how to work through it now.
Awesome. Monique, thank you for your time. Thank you for your courage, your vulnerability, your heart, your spirit. You've shared some beautiful stories. I know that it's making a huge difference with people who are listening. And so for those of you who are listening, if you've got any comments or questions, please write them in there. And Monique and I are going to go in and respond to everything that you write. Yeah. So thank you so much, Monique.
Thanks, Leanne. Thanks for all the work you do. It's amazing.
You're welcome. All right.